a beautiful, fantastic work of crime fiction that gets you like questioning not just Nigeria, but our continent and our policing and crime and mob justice and psychology. Femi, your book, one of the things that always gets me about it, particularly now with what you have been doing, is there's a particular quote in chapter 1 where Philip, who is the main character, Philip Taiwo, is speaking to his wife, and she says, okay, Philip, let's say you get there and you find out what really happened or why it happened. What then? What do you want to do? Write a book? And he responds, this is Nigeria, Folake. I scoffed. You don't chase down the details of mob action in the hope of writing a bestseller. And I kept thinking, was this prophetic or was this ironic? Because, of course, this book has become a bestseller, y'all. It's like, it's on all these lists in the UK, Waterstones, in the US, everywhere. So let's start there. Congratulations, Femi, for what you have done with this amazing, amazing book.
Thank you.
As you and I discussed
earlier. Thank you so much.
As you and I discussed earlier, we're going to start this particular session with you reading a little teaser for those who have been missing out on life and haven't read this book, so that they know why A, they either need to win it in this, but if they don't manage to win it, they then like need to go and buy themselves a copy. Over to you, Femi.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to read the first chapter of the book, maybe because every time it's maybe the most rewritten part of the book. I think I must have edited it at least 27 times, you know. But I like it a lot because it's very short and sweet, and I'm not very good at short and sweet. So I'll read from that. Okay. Source. The October sun is as hot as the blood of the angry mob. John Paul follows the crowd as they chant and push the 3 young men. They've been stripped naked, their scrotums shrunken from fear as the beatings result in wounds that will never become scars. Sticks, stones, bricks, iron, bones break, blood flows. Tearing flesh draws short-lived screams from tired lungs. The men fall but are swiftly pulled up and dragged through the streets towards a place no one picked out, but everyone seems to know. It rained the day before, making the red earth muddy in several places. When the young men fall here, they're kicked further into the ground, their blood mixing with sludge. By the time tires are thrown over their heads like oversized necklaces, and the smell of petrol wafts so strong that some in the crowd cover their noses, madness has staked its claim on what's left of the day. The strike of a match bursts flame as a brick crushes the skull of one of the men, leaking brain matter and life, so he doesn't howl and reek like the other 2 when fire starts to lick their skin and hair. The phone thrums in John Paul's hand. The battery indicator flashes red. He lowers the smartphone and looks around. He's not the only one bearing digital witness to the execution in progress. He considers using the cell phone he had taken off one of the burning men before the mob pounced, but the irony wouldn't be worth it. It's over anyway. Time to go. As John Paul walks away, I follow him in the shadows, unable to unsee the nightmare he created behind us. And because he doesn't look back, neither can I.
Thank you for that, Femi. Yeah, mob justice, something that we're all familiar with across this continent. And what led you to look at that particular angle? And this was your debut novel. So what made you decide to go into that very difficult but very important conversation, even as it is essentially, as you like to say to me, genre fiction is not literary fiction. I don't know why you do that.
Well, I know. I think I'm just playing to the gallery when I say genre fiction is not really literature. Playing to the gallery, but in actual fact, for me personally, all written form that's well is a story well should be a story well told, and as long as the story is well told, it is literature. That's my personal opinion. But in terms of why did I choose this topic, I chose the topic because I think the topic chose me, to be honest, because this was based on a real life situation that happened in Nigeria, where four undergraduate boys in a university town were lynched, mobbed, and killed. And it really worried me. All of us that were living in diaspora, people locally, everybody was like, how did this happen? We all grew up with mob justice in a way, because always it happens around us. It happens especially in societies where law enforcement is not trusted, kind of thing. And that happens in most what you can call evolving economies. But where this was concerned, this bothered a lot of people because these were undergraduate kids, in that university town, they know them, you know what I mean? They knew that they were students, and so I think the subject matter called to me because I genuinely had questions, and I felt that writing the book would help me to get some answers. So it was some kind of a bit of therapy in a sense, because I was quite disturbed about the story, kind of thing. So does that help?
That absolutely helps.
Okay.
In this,
yeah.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, yeah. And then there was a level of complexity that appealed to me about the case, that really, I felt that I still feel that a lot of our stories from Africa can be too simplistic. It doesn't capture the nuances of life on the continent, and that we have evolved so much further than what you see on CNN. We're not all. So our stories, I think, for the sake of what I would say the Western reading audience, we've simplified and almost dumbed down our experiences. And so for me, the story was complex enough for me to bite into. And that really appealed to me. So it was not an easy story to write. It wasn't an easy novel to write, but I deliberately took on the challenge because it was a complex story.
Philip Taiwo, our protagonist, is getting to this story because he's been hired by a leading banker. And you highlight about the complexity. And I think that's particularly interesting because this guy leads one of the leading banks in Nigeria, and yet he chooses to have his son do undergraduate in Nigeria as opposed to maybe going to the abroad, and I wanted us to pursue this and how, what leads him and what leads maybe like people who are moneyed enough at a time when everybody is trying to, I don't know, escape when they have enough money, or send their children away, why then does he loves his son clearly from what we've experienced, but then he sent him. Can you speak more on that?
It's very interesting. I have never thought about it. Maybe because to my mind, I come from a generation of Nigerians that all our parents insisted on us doing our undergraduate. They want us to go abroad. They want us to do our masters or whatever, but somehow, maybe because in the education system, most Nigerian kids, at least of my generation, would have finished high school by 16, 17. So we call it Sweet 16. And you have to go to the university right after. So a lot of parents did not feel that their kids are mature enough to be alone, no matter how rich, to be alone to be alone abroad. So you're expected generally to do your undergraduate, and then you can go anywhere you want to go. But I never thought about it that the banker would have maybe wanted his son to go to Harvard or something. But yeah, but that was my point of view where I was coming from. My parents, their contemporaries, no matter how rich they were in those days, at least in the 90s, would very much insist that you do your undergraduate and then you can make a choice. But of course, things have changed in Nigeria since then, and a lot of people are sending their kids out because the universities keep striking and all of that. But there are still quite a significant number of very, very successful people who still send their kids to undergraduates in Nigeria, mainly from a care and nurturing point of view. You want your child with you for as long as possible, until you send him out into the world, kind of thing. Yeah.
You bring another interesting angle to this, which we have seen in previous novels, which people have talked when they're talking about Nigerian university history as far back as people like Wole Soyinka, and then of course we've seen it in books like Jose Emaswen's Fine Boys. Cultism. Cultism in universities, is this something that is still happening? Is this, is this an ongoing issue, or are we just, because I think even Soyinka's latest novel speaks about it, and he's supposed to be one of the guys who started this brotherhood, etc. type thing.
I think it still exists, but it's been driven underground. That's why they say it's secret cults. I mean, if everybody knows about it, then it wouldn't be a secret anymore. But I think what I wanted to really shed the light on was the intention of what I would say the founding fathers. The intention was very, very different. And they really had lofty ideas in terms of influencing the politics of the day. This was post-independence Nigeria, and these were what you can call the educated elites, that were determined somehow to ensure that the gains of independence, spreads. There's some kind of equity, so I really admire them for some reason, I really, really admire those lofty ideas in those days, because they were coming from what you call in the United States, the fraternities, the groups of people that believe in something, the Phi Kappa Pita, whatever, and things like that. But then something happened in I would say, the early 80s, when the oil boom, happened, and the prosperity that they were fighting for did happen. Suddenly by the early 80s, we had over 36 universities in the country, starting, so there was so much happening. I remember that there was a time when the pound to the naira was 1-to-1, and so yes, there was a time. Whoa. There was a time when it was 1-to-1, and then suddenly I think what must have happened was that these people became rebels without a cause, in a way, and I think the devil plays with an idle mind, so they've organized themselves. They're supposed to be something that they're supposed to be fighting for, and then suddenly there's nothing to fight for. So what do? Then we start fighting ourselves. Then we start fighting, and then they became gangs in a sense. The school frowned on these gangs, as they should, and unfortunately, before fixing it, they drove them underground. And by driving them underground, they became an insidious part of the education system. So now we have a situation whereby so many of them are now politicians. They're very successful. Then they go back and they fund this university societies, and so we're now in a vicious cycle. I don't know how it will ever end. We get some secret cults or cultists that have been captured, and they will basically tell you that the funder or the funding, somebody that is funding their activity is a very prominent godfather when he was a student. So where do you fix it? but it happens. But I personally believe, I'm Suki, sorry to, I believe that that is the nature of societies, that we will always have groups of people that want to identify. I think that's the way human nature is structured. Like we want to form structures and hierarchies and things like that. You look at even Italy, the mafia. You look at the United States, the Tea Party. You look at So yes, some might not exhibit violence, but some definitely. Most of them are formed along the lines of a common agenda. And so what I always ask is, what would happen if we had organizations that counter that with good agenda? But you have to be organized. That's what they have. They are quite organized, Yeah.
Well, Chairmaker Normadi certainly makes a good cause for the original intent of the secret societies, now known as the secret cults. Another thing that I found interesting in this particular book, actually, there are actually a lot of things I found interesting about this particular book, but is
thank you.
Your play on religion and how like religion makes mobs out of us without really discerning. And it's something that, I have had the honor, of course, of, I don't mean to brag everybody, but I've had the honor of reading Femi's upcoming novel, and it also takes on the idea of organized religion. And I wanted to talk to you about that. I wanted you to say something about that. Like, do you think that we have lost a place where our, men of God and Papa or our Imam has become a God, as opposed to like, the deity, if we're, God, if we're Christians, Allah, if we're Muslim, or, whatever it is in the different religions?
I don't know. I can't really, how do I put it? First of all, we have to recognize that what I was trying to do was to actually parallel organized religion and the secret cults, in a sense. This sense, remember what I was saying.
And you did it very well.
That, like, as human beings, we always want to belong to something, some kind of a group, a common group. We have to have somebody against and for. Because that's reinforces our sense of being, our sense of self, or whatever kind of however way we see it. But in terms of how each of these religions are organized, I don't think that was my intention as much as to actually show without judgment that religion is being used by, what you can say, fifth elements to perpetuate things that are not good for the society. So yes, I agree with you. The people that a Christian is ready to quote his pastor faster than they can quote Jesus. You know what I mean? And they say they're Christian, but fundamentally, it still boils down to the fact that human beings need to believe in something. And because they need to believe in something, they need to organize themselves into some kind of a group. And because they need to organize themselves into some kind of a group, they become a very powerful weapon for good or for bad in the hands of manipulators. And that is really just what I wanted to prove, that if you actually want to make change, you have to organize yourself. You can't be a lone voice going, I'm going to be the change you seek, kind of thing. To actually make systemic and structural changes, you have to be organized, to counter the existing structures that are being used to what can I say, deconstruct the society. So politicians, any politician in Nigeria, and I'm sure it happens for you guys, even in South Africa and in Kenya, where you live, you notice that most of the time when politicians want to campaign, where do they go first? They go to the churches. They get pastors to endorse them, right? And it's even happened even with in the United States. It happens. There is something about human nature that requires us to believe in something. We can only pray that more people believe in good than believe in the opposite.
Absolutely. Chika is a fascinating character for me. Tell me about this journey, because he's such an amazing human being, but he's also so very conflicted, and he's been thrown to the deep end, and he's supposed to be Philip's guide, as you will, through this damaged landscape. How did you come about constructing him? Was he based on somebody you know? Was it based on the idea of the fact that, ultimately each of us has a secret to keep, and there is always some person holding something over our heads? And yeah. Walk us through.
Yeah. Chika. You're very. I think Chika is a composite, because I did have a number of friends that were in secret cults and were rusticated. Most of the universities had zero tolerance. And I've always wondered that if you're an institution of learning, is rustication the best way to teach? And it's something that, it's just something. It's a moral dilemma of mine when you say that we're an institution of learning and we have zero tolerance towards drugs. Yes, we have zero tolerance towards taking drugs, but it's an institution of learning. There must be a way to correct, right? Now, a place of work can have zero tolerance towards drugs. A place of work can have zero tolerance towards even guns and violence and all of that. But a place of learning isn't making mistakes part of growing up, isn't it part of? So the jury is out. I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is that where Chika is concerned, it's symbolic for me in terms of some institutions, zero tolerance. And because of that zero tolerance, a lot of young people were kicked out of university, and suddenly they had to go and find things to do, and they actually perpetuated gangs in the outside world, So without giving too much away, I think Chika for me was somebody that did good with whatever bad experience that he had in the past, but he certainly is a very, very interesting character because he has a moral core. And he had a task that he was supposed to do, but he refused to do that task until he had guarantees, So I will not go too much into it, but he's an interesting character there. Secondly, is that he is also from another tribe from my main character. So it was important that we bring that in because his point of view as an Igbo man is very, very critical to the story. So one of my passion projects is constantly talking about the Nigerian Civil War, and its impact on our daily lives, even today, kind of thing. And for me, Chika brings that point of view in. Number two. Number three is that Chika is also a local, and Philip is a returnee. So Philip comes with the arrogance of, oh wow, this Nigerians.
Yeah, I'll come and say Nigeria from itself.
Yes, I'm coming to save Nigeria, and then so Chika is the humbling, is the reality check, is the reality check that actually says no, there's nobody that needs saving here. Actually, you're the one that needs saving, kind of thing. All you need to do is to understand. And I think you can see towards the book, towards the end of the book, that when Philip started saying, okay, yes, everything is chaotic here, but there's a method to the madness. All you have to do is pay attention.
Yeah.
And that for me is something that, we needed the Chika to help him realize.
You've been like a successful playwright, even from your days at University of Ibadan. What led you to decide, like, okay, now I'm going to write a novel? Like, I'm just going to be a novelist in addition to all this, playwright, copywriter, advertising, and you're like, okay, now let me see. Let me try to get into this particular genre of writing that doesn't necessarily pay as much as the others? Are you just like masochistic?
Yes, I guess I am. No, it actually happened very slowly, in a sense. I've always wanted to write a book or a novel, but I just felt I couldn't. I didn't feel I had the I didn't feel I had the grit, you know, and I didn't feel as if I'd read enough, you know. Because I always feel that writers have to like read everything, Crime and Punishment, you know, everything kind of thing. Then I was working in the Nigerian film industry for a while, and I realized that I didn't like the outcomes of my work, and I didn't like the process. You know, the writer did not seem to be respected in the process, and I couldn't claim ownership. I didn't feel a sense of ownership of those works that I was doing. Not that I wasn't proud of them, but I wasn't proud of the outcomes. Maybe that, you know, I'm proud of the script, you know, but, you know, when I finally watch it, I always felt, that's not quite how I envisaged it
had
in
it
my
in
head.
mind. Exactly.
Yeah, you know, so I started thinking about writing a novel. It was an existential crisis in my 40s when I just decided that, look, I wanted something of mine. I wanted something with my name on it. I wanted something that, you know, that's, yeah, maybe that I felt would be my legacy in a sense that was mine. And writing a novel was the combination of all my creative journeys.
You come into
Tuki, are
crime
you in the
fiction.
dark?
Imagine I'm in the
Are you
dark.
in the dark?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now no one can see you.
But darkness is life.
Okay.
I am sadly in the dark. But you come into crime fiction at a time when, you know, there's a lot of like exciting voices in crime fiction on the continent. We've got, you know, yourself, we've got Leah Denle, we've got Angela McColwa, and, you know, we've got people like Nepox, we've got so many people. Like, how do you place and how do you find your contemporaries, and what is it that you are trying to, are you trying to give us anything new, or do you think that like, hey, you know what, you and your contemporaries are doing absolutely amazing stuff, like to reimagine not just crime, but because I don't think that in literature from this continent, whether it's crime or sci-fi or fantasy or whatever, that any of our work can actually be divorced from the politics of the continent. And you do that very well in this. So what do you think you're bringing to the table? What do you think you and your contemporaries are bringing to the table in crime fiction? What should we be excited about? Say I've never read a crime fiction novel from Africa. What would you recommend, and what would you say, hey, you know, me and my contemporaries are doing this, and it's fresh, it's unlike something that you might have been read from the 60s or 70s. What are you bringing us?
I think we're telling contemporary African stories, lived experiences. I think that's really what we're doing. We're really trying to present the world with, I would say, in fact, we claim that it's fiction, but it really is not. It's really just, we're tired of the reductionist approach to telling stories, you know, the beginning, the middle, the end, you know, things like that. I think we're creating a new form using content. You know, we're creating a new form. But for me, I personally feel that what we're bringing to the table is another view of the continent that is not taken from mainstream media. Most of the people that are reading our books now, at least when I read the comments on Goodreads, yes, I go to Goodreads. When I read the comments on Goodreads.
You are a self-Googler.
I know, I'm a
Oh my God.
So,
okay.
but I go to Goodreads and I would read some people's comments, and some of the comments, like, you know, it was very fascinating to me going into this culture, seeing this Nigeria and things like that. There was a guy that, for instance, that was making a pitch to buy the film rights to Lightseekers, and he was telling me that as gory and as heinous as the crime was, he felt like getting on the plane and going to Nigeria. I thought that was like the ultimate compliment, you know. It's very, very difficult to think that somebody would think of Lagos as a tourist destination. But you've been to Lagos before, and it's always you've been to Lagos, you've been to Ibadan, but it's always very difficult to explain to people that it's a different vibe. It's not a backpack kind of space, but wow, what an experience,
Absolutely.
to actually stand on the bridge, for instance, and all you can see is this sea of faces, all Black, all African, kind of thing. I've been at a bus stop that I think, at Oshodi bus stop, I think there cannot be less than maybe 2 million people, in one place, like literally one place kind of thing. So, I mean, it's just the way what we're doing now is really just presenting the world with the reality of our lived experiences. We're holding our leaders accountable, especially in the space of crime and corruption. We're also reminding, what you can say, our Western readers to say we're not that different, eh? We're not that different. This idea that these are savages, or
there's us and then there's the other,
countries,
which is Africa. Yeah.
Yes. But it's not, because I think the Lightseekers was released in February, and in January, America was still reeling from the Capitol riots. And they didn't believe that it could happen there. But they see those pictures a lot in Africa, right? Ivory Coast, the banana republics and all of that. And we were just sitting there, we're like, okay, after 200 years, I think it was a very humbling experience for Americans, or you look at what is happening even for now in the sad situation in Ukraine. Who would believe that Europe will fall into this after all these years, after the experience of the Second World War? But we get it all the time. When they're talking about the Angolan war, nobody still wants to talk about the fact that we're still at war, in Congo, for instance, and that these wars are being stoked. Look at what is happening in Haiti now, and there's us and them. But now it's showing that what is happening in Ukraine, for instance, is showing that we are actually inevitably connected.
Absolutely.
And there's no white or Black anymore, and there's no Asian or whatever anymore. We are all connected, because if that oil pipeline is cut, it's going to affect the price of bread.
All of us. There's just War and Peace.
Yeah. Thank you. Exactly. So, and that's one of the reasons why I think that crime fiction is actually revealing. Other forms of fiction, other genres don't really do that. They can be so narrow, in the stories that they're telling. Either it's a domestic issue, either it's I don't know, whatever it is. I don't want to critique any other. Everybody writes what they're good at. Science fiction has been used a lot to reimagine Africa, to reimagine the continent. But I think crime fiction is the one that is telling the story of today, now, and that's very exciting. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got you admitted to being a self-Googler, and 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 so in your self-Googling, you get like all these compliments about your work. What has been the most hurtful and ignorant sounding comment or review that you've ever had as a writer? Where you just like, you wanted to meet that person and slap them upside the head?
My dear, oh my God. In fact, this lady went on to have a whole show on YouTube trashing this book, this American lady. So I didn't know. I made the mistake, because what I do on Goodreads is that I click like. Even if you give it 1 star, I'll just say like, thank you very much. In fact, there was somebody that said, oh, I like the book, but then why did it become Dan Brown towards the end? And I was like, oh, I like Dan Brown. And he was like, and she answered back and she was like, oh, wow, you have a good sense of humor. Thank you very much. Actually, I enjoyed the book. And I think Dan Brown is actually, Da Vinci Code was actually a good book. But anyway, that's not the point. But this lady called me misogynist because of the way my main character referred to women. Apparently, there was this particular scene on the plane where the woman clearly did not want to talk to him and he forced himself on her. And I'm like, wow, they were flirting, kind of thing, And I was like, but I think what
one man's flirting is another woman's forced attention.
Exactly, forced attention. So I didn't read it like that. I really didn't read it like that. But what really hurt me was this idea that because a character in a fictional tale behaved in a particular way, that means
that means it's you.
But yes, and I think that really, really hurt me so much. I mean, you can say you don't like the book or you don't like the character or what that person said, but I took it personal and I made the mistake of responding. Despite the fact that Goodreads says ink. I did. And, everybody now went, no, Femi, this author, you should listen when a woman is talking. I'm like, but I'm not even responding to her as a woman. I'm responding to her as a person who made a comment. I am not a misogynist, So it was like, if you do this way, I lose. If you go that way, I lose. I was like, okay, so I just got out of all the conversations. But to be honest, that was really the one that hurt me the most. A 1-star review did not hurt me as much as you ascribing to me the negative flaw, the flaws or the opinion of a character that has been created in a fictional work. That really hurt. It's like, why would you think that the person that wrote American Psycho is actually a psycho? Kind of thing. Yeah. And it's very interesting. The people that had the most extreme reactions to Lightseekers are, for some reasons, Black Americans. So there were Black Americans that really, 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 really liked the book, and there were Black Americans that just did not. They felt it's almost like maybe it was busting a myth in their minds. I don't know. But they felt it reinforced certain stereotypes or they expected something else. And maybe something, for lack of a better word, a bit more literary, a bit more like Chimamanda, Half of a Yellow Sun, or they expected something that was not. It was not. They didn't expect a James Bond like story. They didn't expect. Yeah, and I had fun writing those action parts, those thriller parts. I really had fun writing them because that's the parts that you can see for me. That's where my screenwriting skills comes in. I write screenplays. And the best compliment anybody has ever given me is over Lightseekers is always. It's very immersive and very cinematic.
And it really is always... like, has it been, are we hoping to see a film out of Lightseekers?
Yes, the rights are gone, but I am not, I'm on the NDA not to review.
Okay, but the rights, okay, no, we'll take that.
But the rights are gone.
We'll see it. The rights are gone and it's in development, we hope.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. That's great news. Philip, though, makes me, in a way, like, he's lovable, but he also makes me laugh because of his assumptions about Folake, and how that is such a human foible that he exhibit. And I loved that you brought that. And obviously it's clearly from your screenwriting and script writing, what you call it, that this guy is, in his wholesomeness and holistic, I'm gonna investigate it. He's also like just a person who comes with his burdens and, tell me more about that. And I'm not gonna do any revelation.
I love, yeah, to be quite honest, I really, really did not want, oh, by the way, a quick shout out to my German publisher. She's here. Hi, Maren.
Hello, German publisher.
Maren, please.
Yeah, hi. I had to do my microphone. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm very happy to join you this evening. And of course, I'm very happy to see Femi again, whom I met this summer in Berlin, and we had a great time. Yeah, I don't know. Do you see me, or should I put my video on? I don't. Oh, okay. Yeah, now we're cooking.
Hi, yeah, good. Yeah. I just wanted to say a big shout out to Maren. Lightseekers is doing quite well in Germany, and so thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I think let me just talk about Philip and this flaw. This flaw that you're talking about. I wanted him to have a normal life. I really was tired of the trope of the alcoholic detective who's not spoke or is tired, or the superhero detective who is super Sherlock Holmes and can, I wanted a human being, and I really wanted him to have a normal insecurity that he can walk through himself. And really, again, it's all about perceptions, isn't he? So he was brought in, and that's why this book is called Lightseekers. Every part of the book is written according to the laws of light, and it's only just based on the idea that truth changes color according to the light. So he also had a perception about his wife, but the truth is very different from that perception. So he's human like all of us. So I'm always constantly wanting to look for relatable conflict that my main character will walk through, that enriches the lives of the reader, hopefully, because in Africa we don't tell stories for entertainment purposes. We also tell to learn. So most of the time when you ask an African, Zip, you always hear that, you get that a lot when we say, did you like the book? I learned a lot.
Did
you like the movie? Oh, I learned a lot. But it was supposed to be a comedy, it's supposed to be funny or whatever. But somehow on the continent, maybe because of the way we tell stories here, yes, everybody is looking for something to learn, some kind of a moral core, a moral of the story kind of thing. Because then you finish the story and then you go, is that it? In Nigeria, we always joke about the Titanic, when Leonardo DiCaprio died, and then Nigerians just look at each other and say, is that it? That's it? Just like that? Just like that. Because it's like, what is the moral here? Where am I going to? Yes, I know it's based on a true story. I know the Titanic did sink, but like, guys, it just took me through 2 hours, 2 hours, and I'm just going away with a sense of what, So I think that's it. I wanted Philip to have a normal life, and you've read the sequel, and the sequel too. He has a very normal problem, a normal issue that I'm hoping that fathers would learn from how to navigate themselves through. Yes,
absolutely. Yes. We've got Namibia in the house. We've got Lina Mwala. I see you. We've got Kenya in the house. Hello, Helen Ambassa. We have TJ Benson over from Nigeria. We have Qatar in the house. We've got Douala over in Cameroon. We've got South Africa. And so thank you all for joining us. I would like at this point in time, if any of you have a question for Femi on his beautiful, beautiful book, The Lightseekers. See, for some reason, the title can show, but my face can't show. Do any of you have any questions? Do any of you have any
TJ.
questions?
I've read your book. Thank you so much for the gift of that book. And there's so many writers that I admire here. James, thank you so much. Okay. Any questions? I'm here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, TJ, you can ask a question.
Okay, so I actually have two. The first is, please, Femi, we need the secrets of how to look the way you do. It's good to sell books, and so please don't tell us genetics or anything. Just give us a straight answer. How have you been able to, like, you said something during the interview that you are in your 40s, and I'm like, sorry.
No, he's not in his 40s. He just actually like on the 50s.
No, TJ. I started writing at 40, but I 51 now. TJ?
Oh, okay, so Femi?
Oh yeah, I went off with it. Yeah. But okay. Secondly, the second question was, I went off, so I couldn't hear that. But the second question was, you travel a lot, and I'm curious about how, and then you're writing, especially when you write about these Nigerian places, I'm curious about how travel affects your writing. Is it easier for you to write about Nigeria or these Nigerian experiences while you are here, or because I see that at the moment you're based in Namibia. So these very Nigerian experiences that you're able to create or evoke in your writing, does travel help or diminish it?
Oh. Ooh. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
hear you.
Zuki?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Look, first, your skincare routine.
I think. Okay. I think travel is very. My skincare routine. My skincare routine is very, very simple. You have to shower every night before you go to bed. Sleep early. Drink lots of water. I sleep. I think I would like to say I sleep. I think I sleep. Okay, I sleep latest 9 o'clock. 9 is past my bedtime, and then I would wake up around 2:30. Work. But I don't think I would like to look better, but I think I'm finding little by little. I wasn't always at peace with myself, but now I'm finding my peace little by little. And I think it makes a huge difference. Keeping busy also helps, and not taking yourself too seriously also helps. In terms of traveling and how the authentic Nigerian experience, okay, I live in Windhoek, yes, but I think that I go home a lot. My parents come and visit a lot, but most important, and I'm first and foremost a Nigerian. But I think what travel has done is exactly what I was talking to Suzuki about, is that it accentuates your experiences and it shows that we are all one, we're all human. So travel puts this universality on the characters that you create, even if they are Nigerians or even if they are Ghanaians, or even if it's actually, I think it accentuates it, in a sense, But I rarely finished, even when I was writing Lightseekers, I finished Lightseekers in Nigeria. So I actually got on a plane and I went and sat down. I said I needed to soak it in, So I finished it there and I went on site. I went to Port Harcourt. I did all of that. So to be as authentic as possible, you have to be steeped in the locale that you're basing your story. But to be universal and to be human, you need to put into context all the experiences of your own humanity and your own travels and the people that you relate with. So I think that's the only way I can answer it. But you need to be authentic.
Okay, thanks, Femi. Benjamin Domo over from Cameroon would says Nigeria and Cameroon are direct neighbors, but having books from Nigeria to Cameroon or from Cameroon to Nigeria is problematic. It's easier to get the books coming from abroad. Benjamin, there is a group called Book Fam Africa, and I think people like Bakwa Magazine in Douala would be able to help you on getting books from Nigeria or Ghana or other African countries, because I think it's part of the mission of the group, Book Fam Africa, to interconnect and ensure the books passed on without necessarily having to go to Europe. So certainly, but hopefully, Benjamin, you become a winner for this particular thing, and you can have a copy of Femi Kayode posted to you, the Lightseekers. Mesu Wamboi is joining us from Ethiopia, and she says this is a fascinating book, and she would like to ask you, Femi, what drew you to crime fiction? And also, can you please say something about your writing process? Are you a disciplined writer, or are you just wire? You go, you have a wine, and then you're like, I'll write when I want.
No. I don't believe in inspiration. I believe in motivation. And I believe that you have to show up first before inspiration comes. So you have to show up, So I believe in showing up, and I show up every day at this chair. I show up. So that to tell you about my process. My process is very simple. Let me start from there. I would wake up very early, at around 3 a.m. in the morning. I would sit on my computer, whether it comes or not, or it doesn't come, I have to be there. And then at around 5:30, I would get up, I would dress up to go to the gym. Then I walk to the gym, and then what I do is that I record. How do I put it? I record the next chapter, or the plot, or the storyline. I record it in my voice note while I'm walking. And then when I get to the gym, I come back, then I go to work. And then by the time I play it back, it's a sort of simmered in my head. So it's sort of, I call it the Woody Allen approach, where he uses his therapist notes to write movies. So my voice notes are my planning and my outlining kind of thing. I also work on different things. I'm working on an Amazon show now that is in development. So it's not just novel, for instance. So I'm working on a TV show now. I teach creative writing at the University of East Anglia online school. So my craft is very much around my process. So that's how I live my life is part of my craft. So everything has been arranged around that, and all that. Okay, so that's practice. Why crime fiction? Because I like crime, I like bad people, I like the underdogs and things like that. So yeah, but on a serious note, like I said, maybe before you came, crime fiction is just a unique genre because it allows you to traverse the full spectrum of a society. A murder affects everybody, even armed robbery affects everybody. Nobody's immune to the effects of a kidnap, for instance. Whether you're rich, you're tall, you're poor, you're whatever, crime affects everybody. So for me, I think it's very, very, crime allows me to put a touchlight on my society or my community or my culture. There's no way, there are very little ways you can understand people and their behavior if you have not put them at their worst. So that's why crime fiction is important. And I do believe that every good book, every good book should have crime at its heart. Can be crime. That's for me. That's for me is the definition of conflict. Is to have crime at its heart. There is crime. In a domestic in a book that is about a couple that is getting a divorce. Somebody betrayed somebody. That's a crime. You know what I mean? So the crime is what we define it. But, most conflicts is usually about desire versus danger. And because that conflict is there, that word danger to that desire, essentially what it means is that a crime is actually in progress. It just doesn't have to be a gun, with a gun or a knife.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I am seeing that your bandwidth is very low, Femi, and I don't want you to go off before we do our draw. Paulina, over in Namibia, are you doing the draw, or is it Detlef, or is it George in Nigeria? Which of you is doing the draw for our 5 winners?
It's a teamwork. It's been done already, so anytime you're ready, we can release the list of the winners.
We are ready.
So I say, let's get going. Should I read them, or should drop them in the chat box? Which one do you prefer?
Well, you need to pick them first so that we know that you haven't rigged this process.
No. We picked them already.
How did you pick them in advance?
No, in advance.
Ha! We don't even know whether this is real anymore, guys.
You guys want to have it and camera on?
Yes, you're supposed to pick them live.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So
imagine we had to get rigging from Nigeria. Guys.
I am not in this conversation.
Okay, so you should trust Nigeria a little bit more. But here's what we do. Let me put. You need to give me 5 more minutes so I can do it again. Cameras on this time, and hopefully the winner stays the same. I mean, it won't be the same.
They shouldn't stay the same.
I guess it's not much more interesting.
Guys, thank me for being your independent electoral commissioner.
Hey, God help me.
Zuki, you know too much.
Lord, you are rigging.
So camera will be on now.
Yes, let's see the camera. We want to see it now. We want to even see the what you call the chair of the Electoral Commission. Just give us everything properly. And you announce a name. You pick it from a box and you announce it. And then we'll see. Oh, TJ, had George picked you as a winner because you are saying you always fail. So were you rigged to win?
I don't know, George. I don't know who this person is, though. I don't even think they know me.
You're denying. Is your other name Peter?
We don't know each other.
Is your other name Petros?
But I guess we'll meet. We should meet very soon, right?
George, put on the camera. We'll see you do the race.
No, 1 second. Actually, I need to do it again because Paul was the one that did it, but I think she's not on at the moment. So so I have to do it myself. That's why I was saying it would take the next 4 minutes, and I'll put on the camera, and you get to see everything.
We appreciate that.
Of course, no problem.
Yeah, guys, I just need a job at the International Criminal Court now at this point. Femi, I think while we're waiting, maybe you can read us another little.
Yeah.
while we're waiting
sure
maybe you can read us another little teasing excerpt from this book.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, there was something you didn't ask the question. You and I, we've talked about it, about the villain, remember?
Yes.
And people say, oh no, but this villain, we don't really get it, and things like that. And I've always wanted to talk about the fact that there's no real villain in Lightseekers. The villain was the system.
No, I know. No, the villain is the system.
And
so no.
It's the system kind of thing, you know? So I've always wondered.
Every person I look at, you know, they all have their demons and they all have an angelic side to them, you know, and it's what I say, I think, is a sign of good craft, where nobody is ever truly bad and nobody is ever truly good, because even the person who hires Philip has like his own boss to deal with, you know? Give us that excerpt though before George finishes rigging. Just putting TJ Benson's name like 5 times.
No, I have a question. That's a question quickly.
Hey, ask TJ.
Okay, because you are into all these other multidisciplinary things, you write scripts and all of that. Does one form influence the other for you? Because you say you're lecturing, you're teaching, and then, you know, you're writing or working on TV. Do they influence your writing fiction in any way?
Yeah, they're supposed to. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They have to. It's just that every genre or every role has its own rules, right? You know, but they do influence. You borrow from it and you learn from one thing or the other. For instance, like when I'm teaching, I'm very lazy reader. So when I'm teaching, I use it to read, I use it to learn, and I use it to practice my craft, in a sense, so that when I'm talking to people or talking to the writers, there's a tendency for me to almost like by repeating back what I'm learning, I get better at it, you know, kind of thing. So I learn a lot from teaching.
And
I think every
script writing,
Zuki
there is
would
dialogue.
agree, right? It's all
absolutely. There is dialogue that you get from script writing.
Yes, there's
that
dialogue.
You wouldn't get in other formats.
Exactly. And thinking visually, for instance, thinking visually. Then I think everything, like, I mean, the fact that I'm a father influenced my writing, you know, the fact that, you know, the fact that I love traveling, you know, I was with Marin in Berlin the other day, but I went to 4 or 5 European countries, taking the train with a backpack. I had so much fun. That was the highlight of my year, you know. I really had so much fun. The travel was very, very important, and it impacts on your work. I always say that one of my favorite quotes about writing is by this woman that wrote the poem, Barbara Kingsolver. She says that writing is the only job that you get better at as you grow older. And
Absolutely.
I think she's right, because all your experiences come together and you're evolving. So your book it's just been released now, your book, I'm not sure you could have written it 10 years ago. You know, so
yeah. All right. I think George is ready, but give us that brief.
I still have to read.
No, just give us a brief excerpt. You know, I think we all want a little teaser before we go.
Okay. Okay. This one is called Boxfuls of Nothing. It is the part where Philip and Chika are going through the case notes from the police. This is ridiculous, Chika exclaims, and only just stops short of flinging the papers in the air. I had asked Chika to help me sort out the contents of the boxes, which are proving to reveal nothing worthwhile. It is mostly photocopies of eyewitness accounts, badly written and poorly spelled. On several, one can barely make out the names of the person giving the testimony. There are missing words erased by poor quality ink toner or cut off by lousy placement on the copy machine. And in most, the grammar is so bad that the whole statements make no sense. The police reports are even more pathetic. My 13-year-old daughter can construct sentences with greater clarity. They did nothing. Chika waves the paper, irritated, or didn't want to do anything, I say as I stretch awkwardly from the lotus position I had assumed for almost an hour. But sir, Chika says, you could have at least pretended to do some police work. Look at this. My name is Peter A. Opunsi. I was there when they catch thieves, but not seen them born. Signed on this last day of October 28. He throws the sheet of paper on the floor, already strewn with many of a similar fate. How is this even a statement? I'm looking at the large piece of paper I had to unfold several times while Chika spoke. It appears to be a building floor plan. This might be useful. I stand and stick the architectural drawing on the wall facing my bed. Is that, yeah, the layout of Madam Landlady's house, I announce. Chika joins me and waves his hand dismissively after peering at the document. There's nothing here. Look closely. Each of the rooms have the names of the people that stayed there. Most are initials, sir. It will take a while to figure out who is who. And even if this layout shows the names of the legal tenants, it won't have the names of the squatters sharing space with fellow students. I shrug. I don't tell Chika that it's this kind of detailed work that excites me. It wouldn't be any sort of investigation if everything was obvious. Besides, the floor plan tells me that the police knew how to put together the basics of an evidentiary trail and what to look for in a crime scene, which makes the lack of detail in the files even more disturbing.
Thank you very much, Femi. So, George, can we get a song to get out of this? Thank you very much, everyone. It's been beautiful. And Femi Kayode, thank you for the Lightseekers, and thank you for making the time for us on Virtually Yours.
So
thank you so much, Suki. Thank you for having me.
Sorry.
Over to you, George.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And I think I wanted to say thank you to the the different publishers of the book. I have the English copy with me that was published by Raven. So thank you for the work that you guys did. We the readers enjoying it. Thank you very much. And also there's a German version that was published by BTB Verlag. Vielen Dank. Thank you very much. Now, and I will be playing the last music from Nigeria to so you can taste it again. Sukiswa, any word from you before we close or anything?
The last word perhaps is just again to say thank you to Goethe Sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria for hosting us today, Kenya for posting about the event, Namibia for doing the logistics, and thank you to everybody who came on board.